This is Justin West from Podcast Portugal. I'd like to welcome you to episode 2 of our series of episodes with Jason Swan, focusing, mostly on golden visa. And we've had quite a good response from listeners, and they sort of include quite a few questions for me to ask Jason. I'm sort of putting him a little bit on the spot here because I haven't sent him these questions before, but it'd be very interesting to see his direct response. Good morning, Jason.
Morning, Justin. How are you?
Yeah, great. Yeah, doing well. Busy. All is very good. Right, let me fire away. We have a question from somebody called Bill Pryor. He's actually from the USA, and he asked the question: if my investment loses money, do I lose my residency? I think we probably have covered some questions like this before, but it'd be interesting just to reply to Bill directly.
No problem. Hi there, Bill. Good morning.
Yeah.
In short, Justin, no, it doesn't affect the visa. You might be a little grumpy if the investment has gone down in value, but no, it will not affect the visa application. We only need to evidence that no withdrawals have been made, but the value of the investment can fluctuate without any impact.
Okay, great. That's a nice, quick answer for you there, Bill. He actually asked another question as well. He asked a few. He asked, how risky are golden visa funds in reality?
Well, golden visa funds, Justin and Bill, are the same as American funds, same as UK funds in a lot of aspects. You know, they come in various different shapes and sizes. You can invest into low risk, medium, or high risk funds, in line with your personal appetite for investment risk. Naturally, the more cautious you are with your investments, typically the lower the return, but the less volatile. The more likely it is to come through as an average. If you invest more adventurously, potentially the profits over the term could be higher. But likewise, you have a higher chance of the value going up as well as down during that term.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's nothing specific about Portuguese funds that make them any higher risk than other countries. Ultimately, the risk comes down to what the fund is investing into. There is one caveat for a fund to qualify for the visa, and that is that at least 60% of the investment fund has to be investing into Portuguese companies or Portuguese securities. So there is that restriction. Otherwise, the other 40% can be invested at the fund manager's discretion, whether that's globally or other parts of Europe. There is no restriction on that. But otherwise, yeah, it's very much just a case of choosing a fund or collection of funds, Justin and Bill, that fall in line with your personal, level of risk, really.
Yeah, I think you've answered that before. Basically, how risky is it's up to you. You can go for a slightly more risk-averse funds with the potential of maybe not getting such a good return, but also not getting such a possible loss. So yeah, it's. I think quoting you from before. It depends on the client's appetite for risk. Okay, I hope
it's
that
worth noting as well, Justin, that for the majority of clients, they're very unfamiliar with investing into Portuguese stock markets. Full stop. If you take the golden visa out of the conversation, it's very unlikely that the listeners would probably be thinking about investing €500,000 into Portugal right now. And that's not necessarily to say Portugal's a bad place to invest, but it's not seen as a financial centre like the US or the UK, and for that matter, a lot of clients don't like the idea of investing into the Portuguese stock market, and instead, can opt for different investments that have a fixed return. There are one or two that basically give the investor the opportunity to swap the potential profits and losses in exchange for a fixed amount.
Okay.
which allows them to, you could say, sleep easy at night and enjoy Portugal, rather than having to track the stock market over the next 5 or 6 years.
And those typical sort of interest, the returns are sort of what, 2% or 4%, or they
They work out around 4% equivalent
That's
each
pretty
year.
good.
So
That's not
could be
bad.
worse, but yeah, it's of course it's a lower return than what the equity funds will target, but like I say, it's paid regardless of performance, and for some investors that is a more comfortable way to go about it.
And is that 4% taxed in Portugal, or is that earnings considered sort of outside of Portugal?
That particular investment is not taxable in Portugal now. There's no tax here,
Okay.
because the income is not paid from within Portugal, but it will be taxable depending on where the client lives. But it will still be a profit, and unless you live in a tax-free jurisdiction, the likelihood is that there will still be a tax to pay
Mm.
on that profit,
Okay.
subject to local tax rules.
All right. That's a very nice answer, very clear. And I'm not sure on this question, but I'm going to read it anyway. What happens if the fund closes before 5 years?
Well, if the fund did close, that would be a problem. In short, Justin, and one of the topics I bring up in my monthly sessions is the importance of choosing an investment that doesn't mature too early
Okay.
or doesn't come to fruition, because um, if that does happen, and you then need to renew your visa and you don't have an investment, and then that will make it impossible to do that renewal, and it will sacrifice the whole process to get permanent residency and potentially citizenship as well. So yeah, regardless of what investment that you choose, very important to ensure that you can remain invested until the process is 100% finished.
Okay.
You need to also bear in mind that if there's any delays during the process, if there is an additional renewal needed, it's very important that you can still evidence that you haven't withdrawn your investment in order to renew. So my advice on that is, yeah, don't choose investments that will mature before you have at least permanent residency, and then you have nothing to worry about.
Okay, that's an interest, because that actually, looking through my questions here, brings me. I'm going to jump to a question from Jilly, because she asks, "What's the real timeline versus the official one?" So, kind of related to that previous question from Bill. Um, what are we looking at in terms of, if I'm an investor, I need to ask my investment fund manager for an investment that that can be evidence for at least, what, 10 years, or what do you think the timeline is there, the reality timeline?
Well, you can apply for permanent residency after 5 years. Now, although the timeline to applying for a passport may be extending past 5 years, the timeline for the investment will still remain at 5 to 6 years. And I'll explain why. The you can apply for permanent residency once 5 years has passed from the date of your visa application. But of course, it can take a bit of time for the visa to actually be received. And until it's done and physically in your hand, it's best practice to stay invested. So my guidance would to have the option to remain invested for at least 6 years, so that you have ample time to actually receive the physical card
Mm.
in your hand. For the vast majority of funds, they can be open ended. Some private equity funds may have a maturity date, but there are a good number of funds and fund managers that give comfortable time within the fund without the worry of it coming to fruition. But yeah, if you are looking at a short term investment option, then 6 years I would say to have as a minimum.
Okay.
Otherwise, there will be a risk of let's say of something going wrong later on with the visa renewal.
Yeah, and actually, this answers this next question. It's from somebody called Johnny Be Good. I'm not sure if that's a real name. Sounds like a pseudonym to me. But he asks, can he exit the investment early? And I'm guessing from what you're saying, no, not in. Well, you can, but that risks getting your visa, right?
Well, that's it. Yeah, I mean, you can invest, you can withdraw from the investment, subject to the investment fund's rules, but it may invalidate the visa renewal. Um, it's important to note that the investment is not linked to a visa application. It's a standalone investment with its own rules, and it will mature or pay returns or have its own flexibility for withdrawals, regardless of what's happening with the visa application. So the answer to the question really is more about what the fund allows you to do, and some funds don't have any penalties at any time, whereas you can withdraw capital without penalty at any time. Other funds will have penalties in some cases as long as 10 years, and that's again maybe something to avoid where possible because you don't want to be tied into one investment any longer than you need to be. Um, but yeah, some funds are more flexible than others, and yeah, it's just very much part of the discussion during an initial kind of discovery meeting, but just in where we can take on board what type of flexibility that the client would like from their investment funds, and we can share investment funds for them to choose from.
Okay.
And of course, we can go through the key facts of things like access to withdrawals and time frame, risk rating, potential profits, and things like this as well.
Mm. So, for the sake of a visa application, and for the passport application, they need to be signed up to or or have evidence that they're invested in a fund for at least 5 years.
Well, you need to maintain the visa. It's really which indirectly, Justin, is yes, you need to stay invested
Okay.
for at least 5 years,
Okay. But that doesn't need to
and
be the
ideally stay
same
invested.
fund. It can be the same fund, or you can withdraw and then
Um,
invest in another fund.
well, it doesn't formally have to be the same fund.
Mm.
However, what is important to note is that if you change investment funds, if you sell the first one and buy into another, naturally there is a period of time between those two transactions,
Okay.
and it's a bit of a risky topic because if there are any breaks in the investment time frame during the visa period, it may invalidate the visa renewal. And that could be as short as 1 or 2 days, whilst funds go from one fund manager to the next. So it's highly discouraged to
Okay.
change funds for that reason.
Good.
However, one way around that is that capital permitting, you could invest into another fund before selling the first one, and as long as there's no break in the actual time invested in qualifying the funds, then you could change.
Okay.
But it's just important to know that there can't be any breaks within the investment time frame to ensure the visa renewal is okay.
Great. I think these are really interesting answers, and I think they're very. I think it's very important. These are very details. I think maybe people wouldn't think of possibly. And we've already answered this one. I have here: are Portuguese funds safer than the international ones? We've already discussed that. Another one, actually, this could probably tie in what we were discussing off air a minute ago. It's from Johnny B. Good again, and he asked, "Could the government change rules after I invest?"
Yes, they could. They could change the rules. However, it is important to know that Portugal does honour grandfathering rules. And there's two laws in question, and this kind of leads me on to another point that you may have some questions on, actually, Justin, or I would expect us to get in light of the news a couple of weeks back. But there's two relevant laws in Portugal. One is the residency law, and second is the citizenship law. Now, the visa application and residency comes under residency law. And for example, if you make an investment and you submit a visa application, and then 12 months later, the residency law changes, like we saw in 2023, for example, where the government removed the option of investing into property as a way to qualify. It will only affect applications submitted after that law comes into effect. It doesn't apply retroactively to previously submitted residency applications. And we see that now because we have clients, of course, that are still renewing their visa, even though they hold a property as the investment, which is no longer permissible for new visa applications. So if the law changes in the future, to answer the question from Johnny B. Good, what a great name.
Yeah, yeah.
And then it won't apply retroactively. So and that applies to things like if the rules change, if the program closes, the program may come to a close at some point. Portugal now is the last remaining country in Europe that offers a path without the minimum stay of 6 months. And there is ongoing pressure on Portugal, with them being now the last country, but we were well aware of these things. And like I say, when and if the rules change, as long as you have submitted the application beforehand, then the path to permanent residency would be safe.
Okay.
Now, the secondary point, which is a hot topic at the moment, is the secondary law. People are talking at the moment about the potential changes to the timeline to apply for a passport. And a common misconception, Justin, I find is the difference between residency and citizenship. And it's very important to understand the two, and what is and what isn't changing at the moment. So, again, to recap on residency law, the timeline is 5 years to apply for permanent residency. And at the moment, those that want to extend those rights that they have from Portugal into other European countries, you can apply for a passport as well after 5 years, as it stands. However, there has been a law, a proposed change to the law voted on now to extend that to 10 years. And the difference between residency and citizenship is that with citizenship and a Portuguese passport, you can then live not just in Portugal, but in any other European country as well. So for those that are looking to navigate to Portugal, as you well know, Justin, Portugal is by far the best country in
Yeah.
Europe. I don't know why anyone would ever want to leave Portugal.
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
but if they did, if you had the passport, then you have that freedom, similar to what I had actually before Brexit. And you can live in any European country with a passport. But for those looking at Portugal, permanent residency is the main focus, and like I say, the residency laws are not changing, only that to citizenship.
Yeah, and actually, I think with the residency card as well, you have to when you travel within Europe, you have to take your, say, for example, like us, we take our British passport, but I think you also have to take the residency card. I was reading somewhere that it has to be stamped so that they know that you're coming and going. Is there some truth in that, or am I completely?
Well, if you travel to other parts of Europe, you have the 90-day. Well, most of us have the 90-day option, and then the 180 days to stay in a European country without a visa. So yes, you'll have a stamp, whether it be on the visa or the passport itself, just to document, how many days you've spent in Europe, to ensure you don't go over that restriction.
Okay. And that doesn't matter if you've got a British passport or you take your residency card with you. It doesn't matter that you're a resident in Portugal. It's sort of across the board to anybody with a British passport. You have 90 days, or what did you say, 180 days?
It is, yeah. Well, it's the same for most countries, really. Yeah. So you have without the need for any visa, you can spend up to 90 days in any 6-month period, without the need for a visa. But if you want to stay in Europe or stay in any particular country for longer than that, that's when the need for a visa comes in. So if you have a visa for Portugal or Spain, for example, then you can stay in that particular country then for as long as you like. But again, it's only a visa for that particular country, and that 90-day rule will still be in place for the European countries that you don't have a visa for at that time.
Okay. Okay. So, what am I looking at here? The current applicants protected. Okay, we've gone through that one. Let me ask another question here. There's a new organization that replaced CEF. Well, it's not necessarily very new now, but it's called AIMA, AIMA, and I'm not sure what those letters stand for. How efficient are they at the moment, and is there any delay? This question comes from Anna.
Hi, Anna. The timeline as of around November last year has shortened. The biggest complaint from anyone applying for the golden visa is, if you look on Google, the number one complaint is the time that it takes to actually get the biometrics appointment as part of the process, and to actually get the visa. And over, in years gone by, Justin, it's taken a very long time. CEF was plagued with issues. I remember there was a time, I think it was the beginning of 2022, when the law changed, and there was a change in the type of property that you could buy at the time to qualify for the visa, and there was a 3-month period. Very, very cliche this, but there was a time where no lawyer in the country could submit applications because the CEF system basically crashed. Would you believe?
Yeah.
For 3 months, the whole country's immigration system crashed for 3 months. And it caused chaos. There was applications lost. There was people sent to the back of the queue, and that in particular has caused significant delays. In addition to that, CEF had been very short-staffed. The demand for Portugal has gone up dramatically over the past few years. We're seeing almost a 50% increase on applications now year on year. Since kind of 2021.
Yeah.
And yeah, all in all, it's CEF, a lot of problems and a lot of long timelines. So AIMA came in a couple of years back now, and they've launched a new online portal. They've increased staff. They've doubled the number of staff now in Portugal processing applications. And it was around May last year that the government actually made a public announcement to say, "Hey, we are now going to clear this backlog of applications." And although I was a little bit cynical at the time, I thought, "Is that really possible?" But there was no evidence of that up until around about November last year, and within a 2-week period, we saw literally hundreds of biometrics appointments booked simultaneously.
Wow.
And we've seen evidence now that the government is trying to clear this backlog. I've had clients that invested as late as November last year now already have had their biometrics appointment this year, which is exceptionally fast compared to what we've seen over recent years. So all in all, there's still bugs in the system. It's still slower than we'd like, but there is clear improvements with AIMA, and we hope to continue to see that. And these delays don't give Portugal the best first impression, for investors. So yeah, it's getting better. AIMA's getting there, and hopefully we continue to see that improvement this year.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, I think from my experience, I can't remember where it was now, but to get my residency card, the physical card, I think I had a piece of paper for a long time, and I was waiting. I think I had to go and do my biometrics somewhere in Lisbon, and I remember I was waiting for a long time to get that appointment. I can't remember what year that was now. I think it was during COVID sometime. But yeah, it was a bit strange, having a piece of paper. But there we go. All works out in the end.
Always good to try and make that first appointment as well, Justin. I mean, you'll know yourself, but I lost my residency card embarrassingly a couple of years ago. And,
oh wow!
Which you should treat your residency card even more precious than your passport
Yeah.
and your driving license, really, because if you lose it,
It takes so
you
long
know
to get
what's going to
another one.
come
Yeah.
to get another one. Yeah, and you have to go and you have to go back to AIMA or SEF as it was at the time.
Yeah.
And yeah, I actually couldn't make the appointment that was assigned. I was on a 2-week holiday at the time, and having not made that first one, I managed to have another one rescheduled about 4 weeks later.
Mm.
But they kind of punished me a little bit for not making the first one because it went from an appointment in Faro,
Mm.
where I live, to Lisbon,
Yeah.
which is, as you know, about 3 hours drive. And then when I got to Lisbon, I queued up. I kid you not, I queued up probably for about 3 hours,
Ah.
and then I got to the front of the queue, and they said that the computer's not working. The computer is not working, and you
Computer
need
says
another
no.
appointment. Yeah, computer says no, and I could not believe it. So 2 or 3 hours to drive there, 3 hours queuing up, had to drive back, all for nothing,
Ah,
and then I did get another appointment, and then for the third time, it was in Porto, and I
you're
had to drive
joking.
then 5 hours to Porto to do this. So it's a long story to
Yeah.
explain that. Yeah,
Don't
it can be
lose your
difficult.
card. Yeah.
To
But actually, it's worth probably mentioning to people that legally you have to carry your and a form of identity with you at all times, because the cops can actually ask you for your identity, and you're obliged to show it. In other countries, perhaps you don't have to, but in Portugal, you are. So if you are a little bit in the habit of losing things, perhaps it's easier to carry your passport with you, um, rather
Well,
than
yeah,
your precious
good.
residency card.
Always a good idea. Yeah, and same for in the car as well. Always be sure to have your insurance documents and the tax documents to hand because, yeah, I think I don't know if it's part of the law to have documents in the car, but this is certainly
Yeah,
expected. I know in the UK you get a bit of time to go
I think you can
to
turn
provide
up.
your documents, but
Yeah,
in Portugal, yeah, always good to carry them with you, but just make sure you keep the residency card under lock and key.
yeah. I learned this in Saudi Arabia. I take a photocopy with me, and sometimes that
Okay.
can just be it's just slightly easier and slightly less risky. Just keep it in the car. Photocopy of your passport, photocopy of your residency, photocopy of everything. Just keep it in the car. Um,
Yeah, good thinking.
yeah, worth it sometimes. So I have another question from Leslie. Do I need a lawyer? I'm not sure for what for, but I'm assuming for assuming for the golden visa.
Well, yeah, assuming it's regarding a golden visa application, just
Yeah.
yes, you do need a lawyer. A lawyer is one service that's needed as part of the process, and it's the lawyer that will access the immigration portal online and physically submit the application. Once all other aspects have been completed, before that time, the tax numbers are generally the first thing to do, followed by establishing a bank account in Portugal. There's many documents to collect in preparation for the visa application as well. Naturally, the transfer of funds to Portugal and then completing the investment. But once all done, yes, the application is submitted, and that will be done by a recommended attorney
Okay. And
at
you
that
have
time. And the attorney's also there to help with the paperwork beforehand.
contacts. So if somebody's sort of, you can be a point of contact for people if they're in terms of recommending a lawyer, or you have that as part of your service.
Yeah, I consult on all aspects of the process just as so. I recommend a law firm that has been used many times. I mean, I've advised now on over 600 applications since
Okay.
2021, and I maintain a 100% success rate, and
Yeah.
part of that is down to using you know law firms that know the process, understand the program, and yeah, can do things in
Okay.
a timely manner. So yes, we're following an initial discussion, and we'll go through the introductions to a law firm, to a tax advisor, to an investment fund, of course, introduction to the bank, as well for the bank account, and I'm always the main point of contact. So I'm here to kind of hold my clients' hands throughout and try and make the process as easy. I won't say easy. Easy is it's never easy, but
Mm. Less
as
painful.
straightforward and stress free as possible.
Yeah, and I'm guessing most golden visa applicants are sort of quite high net worth and probably very busy lifestyles, and they don't want to be sort of having to chase lawyers, which has been my experience sometimes in Portugal, is having to chase law firms. I've got a very good one now; I don't need to chase, but in the past it has been a little bit tricky to find a proactive lawyer, so I say. So I wish I'd come to speak to you in the first place, but well, there is
Well, yeah.
another little bit of a question I have. This is a personal question. It's you. We talk. You mentioned sort of transfer of funds to it. So when you're buying the fund, if you're transferring, say, I don't know, it's 500,000, isn't it? So from wherever you're transferring it to, it has to go to a Portuguese bank first, and then into the fund, or you can transfer the money directly into the fund and doesn't circumnavigate the Portuguese bank. I'm just sort of looking at transfer fees of 500,000 could be quite a lot.
Um, for the majority of fund managers, a bank account is necessary, and you have to send the funds to your own Portuguese bank account before making the investment. But there are some of the bigger providers, the more well established fund managers in Portugal do offer the facility to transfer to them directly now. And as opposed to setting up a bank account externally, they can offer a facility where a sub account is set up within their own capacity to transfer to in the name of the investor.
Okay.
Which again, very long answer to it's much easier to do that, but not all fund managers offer that facilities. So again, depending on our client's choice of investment fund, naturally, we can confirm if a bank account is necessary. If so, we shall continue with that. If not, then yeah, we can be a direct transfer potentially to the fund manager.
Okay, that's interesting because sometimes Portuguese banks probably aren't the most how can I say a little bit frightening in some respects because you can have your money frozen in your Portuguese bank account. It's not exactly it's not like having a Swiss bank account. Let's put it that way. Uh,
Yeah. That's
and
probably a fair statement, Justin.
yeah, so
And yeah,
that
the
is
bank
something to
account,
be aware of.
it can take a long time to set it up as well. So it can be very frustrating sometimes. Not all banks are created equal, but yeah, it's one of the most difficult parts. So if the fund does accept the transfer directly, it's easier for all parties and
Mm,
faster and sometimes cheaper. But again, just depends on the investment fund. And I know which banks are the best ones to approach. I know which banks are able to assist. For example, with US citizens, there are extra hoops to jump through for American citizens with regard to reporting
mm.
back to the US. Not all banks are able to do or not willing to do that reporting, but and some are more. What's the word? Some are more
Open.
accommodating
Yeah.
in certain circumstances. So again, that's part of the conversation that we'll have to make sure the most suitable bank is set up.
And you're talking about the sub account. So if you wanted to, with the fund manager, they potentially set up a sub account in the investor's name. And is that how secure is that? Is that protected by some kind of insurances, or how do I know that this particular company is not going to go bust, or and then I lose my 500,000?
Well, I suppose you have as much protection with that account as you do with the fund manager, full
Mm,
stop.
okay.
So again, it's important to look at this type of detail because not all, again, like the banks, not all fund managers are created equal.
Hmm.
Some are more well established than others, and naturally, one of the criteria for the fund in the first place is for it to be regulated. But the regulator really only extends as far as the actual investment fund. As far as kind of security for capital, um, comes down to the depository bank. that the fund manager uses.
Okay.
Making sure that again it's a well-established bank. But yeah, it's as long as you're investing with a credible name, you can have confidence that the banking will be in order. But again, naturally, when we have these discussions, I'll provide the fact sheet. We can look at the regulation. We can look at the banking structure as much detail as we need.
Great. So I've got a question here. I think we've already answered this one. It's from Jilly. How long are people waiting for biometrics? I think we've already discussed that one. Is the 7-day stay requirement strictly enforced? Don't know. I've never heard of a 7-day stay requirement. I think we've talked about this before, that there isn't a requirement.
Well, there is a very small one, Justin. So Portugal doesn't have a minimum stay of 6 months. Well, sorry, the Golden Visa doesn't have the minimum stay of 6 months. But you do need to be in the country for at least 14 days every 2 years.
Okay. All right.
So that is the commitment, which of course is not long enough to become tax resident, and that's the big difference with all other visas. You have to be here for at least 6 months, which by default makes you a tax resident, which for many is not something that they want to do. And again, the Golden Visa drops that minimum stay to just 14 days
Okay.
every 2 years. Is it strictly enforced? This depends on your definition of strictly, I suppose, but I would highly recommend staying for at least 14 days every 2 years. It isn't necessarily looked at when you come to the renewal stage, but it could be. And if asked, you need to be able to evidence that you have been in the country for at least 14 days.
Okay.
And that could be with the use of
Passport stamp, I guess.
passport stamp, perfect. Yeah, it could be hotel accommodation, which could help the case, flight tickets. It could be even bank statements, showing spending in the country.
Okay.
So I would assume, yes, it's very strictly monitored, and play it safe. And yeah, there's worse places to be, I suppose.
It's not a huge requirement, is it?
No,
It's
not
not
at
a
all. I
hardship.
wouldn't.
Yeah.
I'd happily book 2 weeks in Portugal. So, but yeah, if the longer you can stay, the better. But yes, definitely need to be here for at least 14 days. I would say every 2 years.
I've got another one here from Jilly. Can I live abroad full time and still renew?
Yes, you can. You can indeed, Julie. You can live wherever you like. Like I said, the only commitment to Portugal is 2 weeks every 2 years. So you can stay where you are. You could stay where you are. You can move wherever you like. And like I said, the only commitment to Portugal time-wise is 14 days every 2 years.
Right.
But as long as you can do that, there's a little relevance from Portugal's point of view as to where else you are during that time. So yeah, you could live in Spain, you could live in Italy, wherever you like. Just 2 weeks in Portugal will be fine as far as the visa is concerned.
Okay. And I have another question here from John. He's asking, is citizenship after 5 years realistic today? I think we've already talked about this a bit before, but let's answer John just to clarify the point.
Yes, so yeah, we did cover that in quite a lot of detail before, Justin. But yeah, in short, timeline for citizenship after 5 years. At the moment, it is 5 years. It may extend to 10. The law that's been proposed to change to is 10 years. And it has been voted in majority by the government, but it now has to go to the president, and it may be referred to the Constitutional Court. So at the moment, it's a bit of a replay of what happened in November. And we have to see, if the law does come into play, or again, if it's referred to the Constitutional Court for amendment. So,
So the answer to
it's
that
as good as
really,
mine
yeah,
at the moment.
if you're considering Portugal and you're considering citizenship, get your golden visa application in now. and then it won't. You've logged it in the time period where before they've changed the laws, and they're safe,
Well,
right?
it's a good effort, that, Justin. Good effort. You've been listening carefully, but not quite as carefully as you need to.
Yeah, right.
I think that's what is important to clarify is that is possible, but it would be inaccurate to say that applying for a golden visa now will guarantee the 5-year path to citizenship. It will guarantee the path to permanent residency
Mm.
under the residency law, but a citizenship application is a different law.
You have to do
And
that after 5 years, right? Or
correct, and
10.
you're not going to do that for another 5 years just yet. So formally, like I say, if you submit an application for a passport now, and then the law changes, fine. But the golden visa will come under the residency law.
Okay.
We hope there will still be some protection in place for existing investors that have submitted for a visa, because many have done different visas for Portugal with the thought of getting a passport after 5 years, not 10.
Mm.
So we are still hoping for some protection for existing investors, but I just wanted to clarify that point as that's become on the.
Okay. Yeah, that's important. That's important. I've got another one here. It's actually called from someone called Vasco. So this is quite interesting. He's asking how difficult is the Portuguese language test. Now, I'd imagine someone called Vasco, it would be very easy.
Um, well, it's an A2 level.
Okay.
Which is the equivalent of around age 16
Okay.
study, should you say? But there's two options. You can either pass an A2 language exam. For the majority of clients, they're doing one of two things. They're either doing a crash course and learning intensively and starting and passing the test within about 3 months. Others gradually learning over the visa time. You can pass the test at any time. You don't have to do it in Portugal, and as long as you've done it by 5 years from now, then that will be fine. If you don't fancy doing a test, there is also a way that you can evidence a minimum number of hours study
Oh, right. Okay.
instead.
Interesting. Okay.
As long as you do 150 hours,
And it
which
has,
arguably, if you do that, you could probably pass the test anyway.
yeah. Yeah. But
Just in case,
I can
that
imagine
will be okay as well.
some people don't really like doing tests, and maybe perhaps they don't want that pressure. And
Exactly.
I'm guessing that logging that 150 hours must be with a proper language school that comes under that can prove that you've studied those amount of hours, correct?
Correct. And for reference, it's a website called siplemaster.com,
Okay.
which is CIPLE
Okay.
master.com, and you can read more about that path on there.
Okay. And that is a Portuguese language school, or it's or
I think it's the actual test center. Effectively, it's the formal route to do that minimum study. So there may be other providers, but it's the only one that I'm aware of. So I'd use that as the first point of contact.
okay, that's interesting. And it's 150 hours, did you say?
That's right.
Okay, I'm writing this down.
It's a bit of a premium as well. I mean, it should only be used if you really don't want to do a test, because I think from memory it's 3 or 4 thousand euros per person
Wow. Okay.
to do that route, whereas the test is a few hundred euros. So try to do the test, but if you're really struggling, you can have that in the back pocket just in case.
Is the test multiple choice?
I don't think so. I
No.
don't think so.
Okay.
As you can tell, I've not taken it myself just yet, which is very embarrassing.
Yeah, it's not
But
easy. It's not easy. And what happens? That actually leads to the next question, also from Vasco. For some reason, maybe he's actually teaching Portuguese. That's why he's wanting this information. He says, "What happens if I fail the language requirement?"
well, you have to keep going.
Okay, you can
You
retest.
keep,
You
keep
just have
taking the
to
test.
retest.
Yeah, you can fail as many times as you like, but as long as you can provide a certificate that says passed, with 5 years from now, that's all you need.
All right. Okay. Good to know. Last two questions, and then we could you can add anything else you think would be nice to sort of recap this episode. Anything more information, some new updates, and you've talked a little bit already about some of the new changes that possibly going to come in. So last two questions. I have another one from somebody called John. Lots of Johns at the moment. Does the visa make me a tax resident automatically?
Common question, and the answer is no. Misconception is some, but unlike some countries, you have to physically reside in Portugal for at least 6 months of the year before you become tax resident. So the fact that you have a visa, and even if you had a passport, does not make you a tax resident in itself. The only thing that makes you tax resident is physically spending over 6 months of the year here. And of course, with the golden visa, the minimum stay is only 2 weeks, or 1 week every year. So it's nowhere near enough to become tax resident. So as long as you stay in Portugal for less than 6 months, then at no point will you become tax resident here.
Okay, and in that, does that mean sort of as a tax resident, that means you're taxed on incomes or earning that you make when you're in Portugal, or can you have a salary, for example, coming in from or investments in the stock market, for example, outside of Portugal, entering into a different bank account, not your Portuguese bank account? Does that mean, are you taxed on that? Do you have to declare that, or is it only on income made when you're in Portugal?
It is on your worldwide income,
Okay.
Justin. So if you are tax resident here, then you will have a commitment to submit an annual tax return, and you will pay tax on your worldwide income, regardless of where it's being paid to. However, there is, with most countries, a tax treaty in place with Portugal, so that you won't be double taxed
Okay.
between different countries. But if you're tax resident here, then your centre of interest really becomes Portugal, and where your liability will remain. So on those topics, for those that are becoming tax resident in Portugal, the best exercise is to do kind of a pre-move review along those lines, Justin, where perhaps we look at the current situation, current income, current assets, current liability in their current country of resident. How that liability will change becoming tax resident in Portugal, and look at a kind of a step by step process as to what to change before you become tax resident here, and ultimately what to do when you are tax resident here as well.
Okay. And I think this question follows on. John asks, how does this work now that NHR Portugal has changed?
Well, all of the above still is the same. All of that applies regardless of NHR. NHR is a tax status for new residents of Portugal. And there's two versions of NHR. The first version closed a few years back now, and the second is a little more. It's a little harder to qualify for. However, if you do qualify, you can still request the tax status of in NHR, which is a non-habitual resident, and the government allows an exemption of taxation for up to 10 years on certain foreign income. So things like dividend income, rental income, capital gains, just to name a few. These things can be completely tax-free for the first 10 years.
Okay.
But again, NHR is only relevant for those that are physically living in Portugal and are tax resident here.
Okay.
But it's very much still a thing, and can save a lot of cash.
Yeah.
Depending on whether or not you're going to be spending more time here.
Okay. And let's wrap these question time up. And with the final one, I have, I'm going to choose this one. Can I can I include parents or adult children? And I'm assuming on the visa.
You can, yeah. So parents you can include over the age of 65
Okay.
without any proof of dependency needed. Portugal automatically assumes parents as dependents if over that age.
Mm-hmm.
Children can be included in the same light up to the age of 21
Okay.
without any proof of dependency needed. Children above the age of 21 could potentially be included as well, as long as the as long as we can show some form of evidence of dependency.
Like
Most
university
commonly
fees or
is
something.
proof. Yeah, but they're still in further education is generally the most straightforward, and we can also change who is the main applicant as well. So if you're listening to this and thinking, well, actually, I want to include my son or daughter who is a lot older than 26, sorry, 21,
21.
21 up to 26 with proof of dependency. But if they're over that age, maybe we change who is the main applicant. And we could, in some cases, we'll add your son or daughter as the main applicant. They can then add you and your partner as their dependents, and also potentially your grandchildren in that event as well, because naturally their children, your children's children would then fall under that category of potentially being dependent as well. So,
Interesting.
yeah, it's an interesting topic, and during that initial meeting, we'll cover these things, and I'll guide on how best to structure the application.
Interesting. And actually, there was a little point that you just said there, partner. So, say if your parents are not married, but does it have to be a married couple, or how does that work?
No, you don't need to be married, as long as we can evidence that you live at the same address.
Okay.
That's all that's needed to include your partner.
All right. Okay. That's cool. That makes sense. Good. All right. Well, Jason, thank you so much. And I hope everybody there that asks these questions, if you want clarification, you're quite welcome to drop me a line again, drop me an email, or, get in touch with Jason directly. I'll leave all of the links in the show notes. And Jason, is there something you want to add towards the end of this episode? Any sort of changes and things that people you feel need to know at this date?
Not outside of what we've covered. I think we're pretty comprehensive, Justin. But what I would suggest, obviously, we've done a bit of a Q&A today, which is great.
Yeah.
And but there's a lot of information to digest, and I would always suggest starting from top. And each month I do a all kind of knowing webinar where you can actually watch the full presentation, namely everything that you need to know about the Golden Visa, where we talk through literally everything that you need to know. It's a chance for listeners to log in live and again ask questions live as well. But I cover literally every aspect of what you need to know from the Golden Visa. And again, if you have any questions or if you'd like to schedule some time to go through your personal plans, then yeah, get in touch. Just ask Justin for the link, and be happy to help. Well, the webinar, we do a monthly webinar,
Okay.
Justin. So listeners, and readers can log in each month. For the upcoming dates, just check the link below,
Okay.
and the page updates each month with the upcoming webinar.
Okay.
And yeah, if you want to see more details on that, you can log into my personal website, which is jsprive.com, which
Okay.
is JSPRIVE. And again, you can click in to read more about the upcoming webinars
Okay.
and the calendar for this year. And
All right.
again, get in touch with any questions.
Are they recorded as well? Can someone kind of watch them retrospectively? Are they on
I
YouTube or
did. Last year's recordings are actually on the YouTube channel,
Okay.
Justin. So you can go onto YouTube and type in the Golden Visa Guy, and
Right,
you will
the
see
Golden
all
Visa
of
Guy.
last year's. But for the latest updates, yeah, it's important to tune in live where you can, or like I book some time.
But I'm guessing if you're a little bit more down the line and you're sort of getting very serious about, applying for a visa, then I think they should make an appointment with you, right?
Yeah, I would say so. It's very comprehensive information up online, but of course it's not personalised. So during a meeting, we can go through all the questions, and the supporting information then can be sent out via email to read through.
Great. All right, Jason, always a pleasure. How's the little one?
Very good. Not so little. No, just
Yeah, really.
not so little. I think he's doubled in size since our
Amazing.
last episode.
Walking stage yet, or crawling stage?
Not quite.
No.
He's 4 months old now, and
All right, okay.
he's kind of moving around a little bit, but still stays in one spot just nicely. So we know we can keep tabs on him.
Yeah, you wait until they start moving. Great. All right, well, good.
Yeah, it's very good. Thank you.
No worries. Well, always a pleasure to speak to you, and I look forward to our next one, which should be in a few weeks. So send us your questions, guys, or get in touch with Jason on the links in the show notes. This is Justin West saying a very good day and out. Thank you, Jason.
Thanks, Justin. Bye now.
6 feet under the rock, I'm gonna dig a hole and hide on my magazines. All the spots are not obscene. I just need some time, some focusing. I got the pen, I got the sheet, I got my plan, I got my screen. Someone tell me, please, there is a need to stop playing Baldur's Gate 3. 1, 2, 3, we're living on a rock, living on a rock, living on a roller coaster. 365 per year, living on around in a muffin shop. Call it a need to concentrate, I need to concentrate. Stop the strain of thoughts, or I will be crashing on a couch. Won't have much to grouch about. Walking past another conductor makes me wanna build a fusion reactor. Starting just with the basic switch, connecting poles and energy. Mom says focus on geography, on the things I can learn with that machine. I need some fuel, I need a monster now. I'm the last and come the cloud. Won't you go start